I'm going to start this recording, and then I'm going to just put ourselves live on the Aquarian Minions Facebook page. Excuse me. And lately, meaning the last few months, I've been using the audio recording from this to populate my podcast, because I've been so busy doing everything else. I haven't been had time to do my weekly astrology podcast so much. So what I have been doing instead is uploading the audio from these classes, so that at least I'm doing a monthly overview instead of a weekly thing, because who has time? Not me. So if you ever want to see the archives of all of our classes, not just my astrology class, but all the classes of the Aquarian Minyan that have been recorded or broadcast, are on our Facebook page called The Aquarian Minyan. And all you have to do is go there and look for where it says videos, click there, and you will see all of them. Or you could go to our actual website, aquarianminyan.org, and right there it will have a link to access that video tab. So let me just put the title of this fine, wonderful presentation in for you here on the recording. Hold on a second. This is the thing that like literally cannot be done before time. It has to happen in real time. So this is one of those real-time moments that we used to always have before the age of technology. It's 12/10/2020. Today is my son David Solomon Kude's birthday. He's my birthday twin. He is 37 today. So the year that he was born, it was also the 17th of Kislev and the 10th of December. And my birthday is the 18th of Kislev and the 11th of December. So we are truly birthday twins. And today is the day when we spoke that we decided that we're not going to tease each other about our ages anymore, because we're both incomprehensibly old. Okay, so everyone older than me is chuckling, right? But it's still incomprehensible. How did I get a kid? How did David, my baby, become 37? That's what I don't understand. I protest. Okay, but anyway. Okay, good. We're broadcasting, we're recording, we're all together. I've turned off the play sound when someone joins or leaves, so I won't be hearing everybody coming in, coming out. Thank you for being here. It's really wonderful to go through all 12 of our months, our zodiac signs, our constellations, our tribes. It's like we are rocking around the zodiac, and we have finally come to my birthday month and the happiest month of the year, or so I say, and I believe. So there you go. We're going to start over here with our familiar cover. Mazal Keshet, that's where we are, Kislev Sagittarius. And how did we get here? We got here because we decided to move to Israel and become Orthodox overnight. So we showed up in Jerusalem with our 30-something years of astrological knowledge and a suitcase full of long skirts and a vegetarian kitchen, just assuming that would make me Orthodox. And guess what happened? That didn't happen. And one thing I found out is that the ultra-Orthodox, who at the time I thought held the industry standard of what it was to be Jewish, were very upset about astrology and would say to me, Ein Mazal Israel, like they would just quote this one little tiny part out of a much larger picture in the Talmud, and tried to tell me that it was forbidden for Jews to, really get into astrology or even pay attention to it. There was that. And then on the other side of the story, there was 1,000,001 art pieces, artifacts, paintings, pieces of architecture, calendars, ephemera, emblazoned with zodiac signs and in all of their different permutations. So the truth is, the Jewish people have always had a relationship with astrology, and those are really played out in the lives of Jewish communities in communal settings, and have been since antiquity, really until the eve of World War II. So that's what's really going on. And of course, we see all the wonderful evidence of that in all of these gorgeous art pieces. I really do want to go to Poland and visit the painted wooden synagogues that have these amazing stories just painted so beautifully all over them. But there's zodiac themes. There's all 12 signs. Everything is happening there. So why is that happening? So my point of view, and if you haven't heard me say this before, and if you have, you should just remember it anyway, is pretty Neoplatonic in the sense of it's an illustration of the idea of as above, so below. So the principle of that is that there is the ecliptic that goes around the Earth, right? And that's a 360-degree circle, sort of like a belt. If the Earth had a waist and had a belt around her waist, this circle would extend out, and there would be 12 divisions in this circle of 30 degrees each, equaling 360, equaling all 12 of the zodiac signs. So that is how they are arrayed in their order, which never varies. And that's above. And below are the 12 tribes of the Jewish people, the Israelites, the 12 tribes arrayed as they are around the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the holy Mishkan in the desert during the 40 years of wandering. They encamped in this configuration 42 times from the time they left Egypt till the day they crossed the Jordan River. 42 is, as you know, the secret of life and the secret of the universe. Very, very deep things to say and know about the number 42. They had to do this 42 times to get it into their DNA, that each and every one of the 12 tribes has a role to play. And in astrology, everybody has all 12 zodiac signs in their own natal chart, whether or not they have, planets in those signs or not is up to the individual chart. But all 12 components of these symbolic archetypes that are the sons of Israel, the children of Israel, Bnei Israel, are embedded into our spiritual DNA and also our psyches, our psychologies. And this is true for everyone, Jewish people and not Jewish people. But for us, we have this extra layer that is on top of all the other layers of astrology. It's the Jewish layer, it's the Jewish archetypes, it's the stories that our ancestors had added to the stream that was already flowing, because of course, astrology is older than what you would call the Jewish people. If you think of the Jewish people as people who came back from Babylon and settled in the area of Judea, their ancient homeland, or even if you want to say the Israelites themselves, there was already Babylon, there was already the Chaldean astrologers. And of course, you have to understand, like from the time there were humans, they were looking skyward and trying to understand themselves. And in our history, we even have poetry written about the stars. We sing, every Shachrit service, we're singing Yotzer Or. The lyrics to that, the words to that are all about the planets. Okay, the beautiful luminaries in their amazing order as evidence of how our Creator loves us so much that the Creator created these energetic archetypes, which actually have mass and size and are measurable. And with rockets, we can even land on them, unlike the Sphirot, which are also energetic lenses, energetic archetypes. But you can't launch a rocket ship from Cape Canaveral to get to one of the Sphirot. You have to go that internally to do that. It's a whole different kind of rocket fuel, my friends, but the analogy stands. Okay, so where are we now in the Jewish year? We are at Mazal Keshet, the month of Sagittarius. Of course, Sagittarius in the Greek and Roman archetype is the centaur, half man and half horse, with his bow drawn. And in Jewish iconography, there are centaur representations, but there's other things too. Of course, the bow is always the big thing. This is from a German Machzor from 1783. So this is like Revolutionary War time, right? This guy looks totally like a Revolutionary War soldier, and he's holding the bow. And this is from a Taurus shield, of course, a beautiful, ornate, hammered silver Taurus shield from Augsburg from 1744. This is the zodiac sign of Sagittarius, represented sort of almost like, seems kind of like a nymph, right? But still, and he has a fish tail. So watch that tail, because his tail has a tail to tell. This is a Kislev from an American Torah binder, and we don't get a lot of American zodiac art, but this one was from 1937 from Congregation Share Tikva. And it's very American, right? The American flag is on top of the Lamed up here. I really like this one. I wonder if it's still there. I think it's in the Israel Museum actually right now. So it's represented very scientifically, like the Sagittarius is there right against a larger, in the larger picture, you can see that it's all connected to the constellations, but it's very cool.
Is that supposed to be a native headdress?
Wait, what? Here?
Yeah.
No, it's a crown.
Okay.
It's more, I don't think it's a native headdress. You know what? That's a great question. I can't say for sure. Let's look at it bigger and see. We're going to have to look for.
You know, one thing I'm noticing.
Yeah.
Lorelai, one thing I'm noticing is all those stars are six-pointed Magen,
right.
Jewish stars.
They are. That's a good one, Ron. I didn't even notice that. Very good. Thank you. Okay, let me find I don't even know where we are. Okay, here we are. Sorry. Okay. This is the Centaur Sagittarius from somewhere between the 17th and the 18th century. And so half man and half horse. And here's the bow from the ceiling painting of a Polish synagogue from 1640. So they didn't go for the human representation or the mythological creatures representation. So the bow is always useful in that. So this is from the Great Yeshiva in Mea Shearim in Yerushalayim, a wall painting made in 1949. Okay, it's still there. All the signs of the zodiac are there in the Great Yeshiva in Mea Shearim. Mea Shearim, of course, is like the, I don't know, it's the inside of the inside of the inside of the Haredi world in Jerusalem. And this is Sagittarius also with the bow. Mazal, and this is Mazal Kislev, also from the Polish synagogue. I'm calling this the yeshivish representation of the archer's bow without the centaur. So back in the day, in the mosaic synagogue floors from northern Israel, which are very famous, this one is from the Sephora synagogue, which is from the 5th century in northern Israel. You already have Kislev and Keshet there. He's drawing his arrow. And here you've got very Byzantine already. It's from Beit Alpha, 6th century. It already looks like that Byzantine art, really flat look, right? And there's no centaur, it's just the man with the bow. So in Islamic art, and this is Judeo-Persian, meaning it's Jewish Persian, obviously, and this is an amulet that was from Iran in the 19th century, which has a very similar tail. It's a dragon tail, so Islamic art has motifs of Sagittarius, the centaur, being half man, half horse. Almost doesn't look like a horse to me. It looks like totally like a leopard. It looks like a dragon, okay, because he's shooting his own tail. This is very Sagittarian. A Sagittarius might shoot his own tail off because out of enthusiasm and haste to get to the point. Okay, and on the other side over here, where is it? It's the same motif, but it's just inverted. It's over here in the bottom of that picture. So here we are. We started over here in this. We started over here in Yehuda, obviously. Nissan, Yehuda. We went Mars, Venus, Mercury, Moon, Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Okay, you guys have taken up a lot of space already. Now we're at Jupiter. So we're going to be Jupiter, Saturn, Saturn, and Jupiter. But we're also understanding that the modern planetary rulers also have relevance here. So it's Jupiter, Saturn. This will be Saturn, Uranus. That will be Aquarius itself. And then Pisces, classically ruled by Jupiter, but modern ruler is Neptune. So the quadrant of the year that we've been in since the beginning of Tevet, which was Rosh Hashanah, okay, that was the first of Tevet, but the actual Tefukah was not on that day this year. It seldom is. So we have Libra, which is Ephraim. We have Menashe, which is Cheshvan. And now we have the youngest son of Jacob and Rachel, Benjamin, the son that Rachel died giving birth to Benjamin, okay? So we've gone through Venus and Mars. We're turning our attention to Jupiter. We always read the story of the birth of Benjamin and the death of Rachel during Chodesh Kislev, always. Comes at this time of year for a very good reason. So we've reached the peak, right? We've reached the peak of this quadrant, and that's where we are. Benjamin is the tribe of Chodesh Kislev. There's two blessings that are given to Benjamin. His father says, Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, or ravenous, depending on where you are in the United States. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf. In the morning, he devours the prey, and in the evening, he divides the spoil. So that was Jacob's blessing. And Moshe, when he was blessing the tribe, said of Benjamin, he said, the beloved of the Lord shall dwell in safety by him. He covers him all the day, and he dwells between his shoulders. That's a beautiful blessing, and it's very, very relevant because the tribe of Benjamin had part of their territory intruded, so to speak, into the area of Yehuda on the Temple Mount where the Holy of Holies was. That's where Benjamin got to incorporate the Holy of Holies in his area, and there's good reason for that, which we'll get into. This is from Benjamin from the Great Synagogue in Barlad. It's the early 20th century, 1910 through 1920. So Benjamin is a wolf there, a wolf in winter. And over here, this is a very cartoonish sort of Benjamin from 1930. So these are both modern examples of those tribal flags. And of course, there is on the tribal flag of Benjamin himself, there is the wolf, which you will see in this picture from the Great Synagogue in Harlu. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. This was also from the early 20th century. So it says in the Midrash that the flag of Benjamin had all of the colors of the tribe. It's like the rainbow flag. It's the only flag of all 12 flags that has all the other colors of the other tribes in it. So it's very shalem, it's complete, right? And it has the wolf, the howling wolf. It doesn't have a centaur, there's no arrow on it. This is this Benjamin archetype. It's so interesting because again, that's where the Holy of Holies, the altar of the high priest, is right there in the tribe of Benjamin with all of his flag with all of the tribes. It's like showing that that the Holy of Holies is where all 12 tribes meet. Okay, they meet, they're all represented. All Israel is represented before God in that way. This is a little snapshot. I couldn't face typing. My fingers couldn't do it. So I just took a picture. The flag of the tribe of Benjamin, obviously we just said was multicolored. consisting of all the colors of the other tribal flags. And pictured on it was a wolf. This was symbolic of the altar of the Beis Hamikdash that stood in the territory of the tribe of Benyamin, since the sacrifices were snatched from it by heavenly fire. Okay, that's like heavenly fire, snatched like a wolf. This is the blessing of Benjamin as a ravenous wolf. This is very Sagittarius too. You have to see how this trickles down into the Sagittarian archetype. So this blessing is taken apart thusly. This kind of represents Benjamin's role in the various periods of Jewish history, right? So they talk about Benjamin's grabbiness after the incident of the Levite and the concubine, which is a whole other story, and we really need to do an entire class on it. That is in the book of Judges. The men of Benjamin were like, Benjamin started a whole civil war, first of all. That's something to understand about Benjamin. Like, there was a civil war around the tribes. Benjamin got kicked out of the Confederation because his people were so extreme. And that is something that's very much about Jupiter and about Sagittarius. By the way, I am a Sagittarius, so I can say these things about Jupiter and Sagittarius. I'm not picking on us. I'm telling the truth. We're all about the truth, but every Sagittarius is a natural born extremist on some level or another. And it's been my life's work to try to align more with my Libra rising and be balanced, because Sagittarius energy in Benjamin was what happened when the Benjaminites were so upset about what happened to the concubine of a priest who had come down into their territory. And you have to ask, what the hell was a priest doing with a concubine in a place that wasn't his? But never mind about that. That's not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on the fact that they cut up her body into 12 pieces and sent them all these pieces of her bloody, mutilated body to the other tribes, and demanded that they pay attention to what the outrage that was going on, because she was basically gang raped and left for dead at the doorstep, while the Levite, her boyfriend, was inside partying with his friends. Okay, so Benjamin was really upset for a reason. So he did something super, super extreme. And for that, he was punished. And anyway, eventually he was reunited with the tribe. That's what Tu B'Av is all about, really. That was the whole origin of we've got to find a wife. So Benjamin snatched his wife when he saw her dancing after that incident. The next part of history, it talks about King Shaul. He was from the tribe of Benjamin. He really started expanding the nation, so to speak, which wasn't really a nation. It was just a collection of tribes, but it started to really become a nation through Shaul. And that's called the morning. It was the beginning of Israel growing really strong. And then our most famous people from Benjamin, of course, would be Mordecai and Esther. They divided Haman's riches, and this is called evening because the Jewish people were in exile. So this is the morning and the evening in this particular blessing. When Benjamin, the actual Benjamin, not his archetype, went down to Egypt with his brothers, when the brothers went the second time, they reluctantly had to bring him. So Benjamin received special treatment from Joseph in Egypt, because Joseph was trying to test his brothers to see if they still were suffering from rivalry and jealousy. And so when Joseph gave his brothers gifts, he gave Benjamin 5 times the amount he gave all the other brothers. Jupiter, so the biggest, it's got more than everything, more, bigger, more is really Jupiter energy. Jupiter is super expansive. So it's interesting how Benjamin had that aspect to him. And when Joseph put his cup in, had his cup put into Benjamin's sack in his method that he was working the brothers to the point that he hoped to reveal the truth about them. The brothers accused Benjamin of being a thief like his mother Rachel, who stole Laban's teraphim. We talked about this in Jonathan's class last week or the week before. This was another allusion to Rachel. And then Joseph asked Benjamin a series of questions about his life. Benjamin's answers each display that at every significant moment of his life, his thoughts included his lost older brother, Joseph. This is something also that's archetypally Sagittarian, is a big picture overview. They're not so much about the nikudah and the small details about things as they are of the eagle eye view. So even as a young man, when Benjamin was missing his brother, who he hadn't seen for many years, and the things in his life were happening, he named them these occurrences after parts, things that he missed having with his brother. So he talks about, this is from the Midrash, Benjamin tells Joseph how he gave his 10 sons names which referred to the loss of his brother. So I'm not going to go through all of them here. I can send this to you if you want afterwards. But all of these things had to do with memories, and memories of his brother that he never had. And this is also a Jupiterian thing. There's Jupiter is the planet really of transcendence. It's the planet that gives you, and it's the energy that gives you the ability to transcend, because you're able to pull back very, very far the camera, get the biggest eagle eye view of a situation and of yourself. So this is why Jupiter is also the planet of philosophy and religion, because these are things that you think about in a much bigger and broader way than you think about, like what kind of sandwich you're going to have for lunch. So Kislev, Sagittarius, remember our zodiac man, corresponds to the hips and the thighs. That's our famous zodiac man. We started at the head with Aries and we'll end up at the feet with Pisces, but in between, we are now at the hips and the thighs. And that is definitely Kislev and Sagittarius. And we had been going through all of the different permutations of the 4-letter special name of God, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey, and all the different ways that you can mix them up. So Kislev is Vav, Hey, Hey, Yud. That's the letters of the month and the energies that they give out. So Vav, connecting, Hey, the upper, Hey, the lower, and Yud at the end, standing on its tiptoe. So Jupiter's glyph, the symbol this is the symbol for the planet Jupiter. It shows the crescent of receptivity, meaning it's very receptive, obviously, across the cross, rising above the cross of matter. This is obviously not something that I wrote. I completely copied this. I can't describe it in better terms than that. So this is a symbolic of Jupiter's role in raising our awareness beyond the physical world. Jupiter encourages us to reach and expand and improve. That's the function of Jupiter. So it's the largest planet of our solar system by far. It has to do with luck, has to do with authority. Jupiter, of course, was Zeus, king of the gods, small g, on Mount Olympus. As well as plenitude and abundance. It's also sort of a bacchanalian archetype or symbol. There's all this abundance that comes with Jupiter. It symbolizes expansion, influence, and sometimes even wealth, although just because more, but Venus is the planet of money per se. But when you get Venus and Jupiter together, it's called money, honey. And I've seen it a million times in people's charts. So Jupiter astrology symbol keywords: luck, growth, expansion, optimism, abundance, and understanding. The Hebrew word for Jupiter is tzedek. Okay, it's the ruling planet, as I've said 20 times by now. And I want to talk about Avraham. He is associated in our tradition with astrology. It's interesting that the Sefer Yetzirah, at the very end, it's like suddenly it's speaking in a completely different voice, and it's like, hey, yeah, it's me, Abraham, I wrote this. That's what we like to do with our texts that we don't know who wrote them, is attribute them to our favorite sages. But there's a good reason that the Sefer Yetzirah was attributed to Abraham, right? Because he had a lot to do with the planets. He was thought to be the father of astrology, quote unquote, meaning that in the Jewish tradition, if you say that, obviously Abraham was the first Jew, or if you want to say that, but, or was he an Israelite? He wasn't an Israelite either, because he was born in Ur of the Chaldees. He was the one who was the Ivri. He was a Hebrew. He crossed over and became this sojourner. But of course, he grew up in a place that was completely steeped in everything that you ever wanted to know about astrology, but were afraid to ask. So he had a knowledge of it. In Shabbat 156a, which is a very, very long passage about astrology, where first they say there's no such thing as astrology, and then they go on to prove that there is like 100 times. That's the Talmud. It's lots of fun. So in this example of how Israel is immune from planetary influence, the rabbis are talking about what happened to Abraham as an example of why, but it's actually an example of why the planets are influential. Anyone want to read this? I'm kind of tired of listening to my voice for a second. Anyone paying attention who wants to pipe in and read this paragraph from the Talmud?
I will.
Thank you.
Okay, starting with
Rob.
Okay. Rob too holds that Israel is immune from planetary influence. For Rob, Judah said in Rob's name, how do we know that Israel is immune from planetary influence? Because it is said, and he brought him forth from abroad. Abraham pleaded before the Holy One, blessed be he, sovereign of the universe. One born in mine house is mine heir. Not so, he replied, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels. Sovereign of the universe, he cried, I have looked up at my constellation and find that I am not fated to beget child. Go forth from, i.e. cease, thy planet gazing, for Israel is free from planetary influence. What is thy calculation? Because Tzedek, Jupiter, stands in the west. I will turn it back and place it in the east. And thus it is written, who hath raised up Tzedek from the east? He hath summoned it up for his sake. BT Shabbat 15:6a.
Thank you. 156a. Thank you, Amy Joy. That was so beautiful. So this is like, this is Abraham. He's the archetype of faith. God is the creator of the universe and could have done anything. So it could have answered him, one born in my house is my heir, but he shall come forth out of his own bowels. And it could have said, go down to the Jordan River and dip yourself in it 3 times. He could have said, carry this rock to this high mountain and pour oil on it. I mean, God could have given Abraham any kind of possible task to do, or given him any kind of possible sign or demonstration that he was going to have his son. But what did he have to do? He had to move the planet. The planet was there. It was messing him up. Couldn't conceive. He literally had to move the planet. This actually proves that the writers here believed that the planets actually were standing in the way, or you wouldn't have had to move it. God could have said, don't be ridiculous. You actually believe that? Go do this and that, blah, blah, blah. He didn't have to move it, but he did it because he's good that way. Okay, so in the same section, 156a, there's a whole discussion of whether or not the day of the week that you were born on is more influential than the hour that you were born in, or the planetary hours. So this is a description of all the different planetary hours. He was born under Tzedek. Jupiter will be a right-doing man, Zakan. Rabbi Nachman ben Yitzhak observed right doing and good deeds. So that's very tzedek, obviously, like tzedakah, tzaddik. So tzedek is the word for Jupiter. Jupiter is this planet that inclines towards positivity. It's one of the two beneficent planets. So in classical astrology, they were thought to be malefic planets, meaning planets that cause problems. That would be Mars and Saturn in the classical astrological thought. And the beneficent planets, meaning they were brought blessing, were Jupiter and Venus. And of course, that's classical astrology, which is a whole different thing. So we don't really think of Mars and Saturn so much as horrible things to happen to us anymore, but we understand that each planet has its positive and its negative effects. The Talmud has a whole thing about the rabbi described himself as a king. Jupiter is the king of the planets. So they describe the characteristics of those born under the different planets. So Jupiter is the king of the planets in size and in namesake, because Jupiter is named for the Roman god of Zeus, king of the Greek pantheon, largest of all the planets, and is known as the planet of extremes, either completely good or bad, either or dichotomies, pure, impure, holy or profane, and for expansion of whatever traits exist in a person. And also it's interesting that we took the day of Sunday and attributed it to Jupiter, when in the Greek systems, Jupiter is the ruler of Thursday. So that was one of the other things that we did to give ourselves market differentiators, so to speak, of things that were different from in our system than the Greek system. Samach is the letter of the month. Look at this beautiful Samach. It's like a lovely womb. You want to just crawl inside of it and rest there. When I turned 60, it really freaked me out. So I spent a whole day like drawing this beautiful samach, like this big piece of art, and I've taped it to my closet door. So I look at it like when I lay in bed, and it's like a giant womb that is a place of safety. It says in the Sefer Yetzirah, he coronated with it, meaning the month of Kislev, with the letter Samach and the attribute of sleep, attached a crown to it and forged them together in the worldly realm, Kislev in the realm of time, and the stomach within the microcosmic realm in the male and the female. So of course, the fire sign is the mutable fire sign, transforming inspiration, because mutable signs transform things and fire signs are about inspiration. So Sagittarius transforms inspiration. And then Sefer Yetzirah, Kislev is associated with the right hand. Also, the kidneys are the internal organs of the month of Kislev. The attribute of sleep and dreams, all the parshas that we read that are about dreams, we reread them during Kislev. And the Greek system, of course, Jupiter has a different letter. That's the letter Gimel. So Samach is for Kislev. Jupiter's letter is Gimel, and Jupiter rules the right eye. And in the Greek system, they think that Jupiter rules touch, lungs, arteries, and semen. Okay, well, I buy semen, but not the other ones. Okay, so we're going to talk about the symbol of the bow. In Jewish thought, the bow is the power of prayer that issues from the depths of the heart and pierces the upper heaven. Okay, I like that what Onkelos did to the words of Yaakov to Joseph when he was giving a blessing, said that he gave him this portion of the land of Israel, that I conquered from the hands of the Amorite with my sword and my bow. But Onkelos translates that as the word bow as prayer. So the bow was a symbol of victory for the Jewish people against the Greco-Syrian domination, which of course culminates in, guess what, Hanukkah, which starts tonight. So Kislev really has the attribute of confidence and inner strength in it, fortitude. There's also the etymological play on words that will get you to the idea of a fortress, fortitude. Sanach is a closed circle symbolizing protection, support, and reestablishment. These are all things that are available to us during Kislev. Jupiter gives us self-confidence, makes us optimistic and hopeful. What we want to press ahead to the future, overcoming obstacles to reach our goal. Also, Sagittarius people are super independent. The best way to get them to stick around is to never leave, never tell them not to go. Okay, say, okay, go. And then they come back, okay? Self-determination, desire for adventure, inclination towards powerful experiences, rising above the mundane, spiritual alertness, a natural inclination for philosophy and religion. And the main spiritual function of the month of Kislev is the strengthening of faith in God and the affirmation of hope and complete liberation, which, if you want to look at it from the rabbi's point of view, comes to the month of Hanukkah, which always begins the 25th of Kislev, that goes into the month of Tevet, which is ruled by Saturn. Oh, what a coincidence, Jupiter and Saturn right together, which is what's going to happen to us in a couple of weeks, or like 11 days from now. So as I've said before, everybody has all 12 zodiac signs in their personal natal chart. Sagittarius is motivated by the search for meaning and significance. These are some key words. I believe it's clear to me. When you see like the lineups, you see that Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and which co-rules Pisces. So this was the classical lineup. And of course, then they got separated into diurnal and nocturnal permutations of that energy with the addition of the other 3 planets that were discovered after the 1700s. And Sagittarius also rules everything, people, places, and things that are quote unquote foreign or exotic, just like the opposite of Sagittarius, which is Gemini, rules people, places, and things that are familiar, are like your own neighborhood, the place that you grew up in, like what's normal to you. And Sagittarius, being the opposite of that, rules the opposite of that, which is foreign, quote, or exotic people, places, and things. And that's, the opposite of Jupiter signs are always Mercury signs. So Jupiter and Mercury go together in that way. So the opposite of Jupiter is Jupiter ruled Sagittarius is Mercury ruled Gemini. And the opposite of Jupiter ruled Pisces in classical astrology is Mercury ruled Virgo. So Mercury gathers data and information, and Jupiter gathers knowledge and meaning. So Mercury gets all the information, and then Jupiter is going to tell you what it means. So that's just an illustration of the opposite signs. So you see that Jupiter and Mercury are always opposite each other in the zodiac and in the Jewish year, our cycle of sacred time. So why does my horoscope say I'm a Sagittarius when I was born during Cheshvan or Tevet? Because of our 19-year Metonic cycle. And I am going to get Ron Feldman to give a class on this. Ron, if you're listening, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but maybe during 2021. Ron knows a great deal about the Jewish calendar, far more than I do, in great, great detail. So that would be something to look forward to. But we blame this whole thing about the fact that there's actually like 36 permutations of the zodiac, not 12, because of the overlap and overlay that you get when you put the Hebrew calendar on top of the Gregorian or solar calendar, right? So it just depends on where and what year you were born to find out whether you are a Cheshvan Sagittarius, a Kislev Scorpio, a Tevet Sagittarius, or like myself, a Kislev Sagittarius. So Jupiter, Jupiter, baby. Jupiter Sagittarius is larger than life. These are some keywords. Big. Yeah, that's my dog barking at the Amazon guy. Big, enlarged, enthusiastic, over the top, superlative, optimistic, visionary, inspirational, idealistic, and exuberant. Jupiter is all this, Sagittarius is all this, but when wounded or undeveloped, like all signs, everybody has their dark side. Prone to exaggeration, blunt, tactless, overbearing, hypocritical, self-righteous, and cynical. It's a big, big bunch of stuff. So here's some famous Sagittarius personalities. Winston Churchill, such a Sagittarius, completely bullshitted his way into winning World War II. They did not have a chance in hell, and it was like his optimistic, not just his optimism, but his like very Jupiterian, over the top, larger than life presence and optimism and positivity and focus and determination that gave the English people the co-op, the strength to go it alone for all those many years, believe it or not, that they had to do that before the United States finally said, okay, oh yeah, they bombed not Hiroshima, La Havdil. They bombed Pearl Harbor, so we're coming in now to World War II. So that's very, very Sagittarius. Walt Disney, typical Sagittarius, when you wish upon a star. Disneyland is such a Sagittarius idea. Like, let's just invent this complete other world where everything is just so perfect. You know, it's so idealistic. Frank Sinatra, Pope Francis, Mark Twain, Bette Midler, Brad Pitt, although he has so much Capricorn, so he's really cuspy in his chart. Nostradamus, Tina Turner, Sarah Silverman. Those are just some Sagittarius characteristics that you really see when you start to think of them in that way. So as we've done before, we're just going to look really quickly. It's already 12:48, which is crazy, at the natal chart of the United States, because we've been using us, as an example, right? So Sagittarius rising, that's what America's, of course we have Sagittarius rising. There is no other sign we could have as a rising sign. Our rising sign at 12 degrees Sagittarius. First house is personality, the outward manifestation of the energy of a person, place, or thing, described by the natal chart. America is big. We are optimistic. We're generous. We are king. We're king of the world. We are the father of the gods, protector of the people, bringer of victory, preserver of justice, freedom, tradition, and order. And other countries, which is where, if this was a person's natal chart, we'd look at the seventh house to see what other countries think of us and then how we relate to other countries. So our Mars, America's Mars, is in the seventh house. So we're going to militarily dominate the world, and other people see us as aggressive, right? But they see us as bigger than life, larger than life, bigger than we really are. Our presence on the world stage is not proportional toward the amount of geography we take up in this world, but we are the biggest in terms of power, wealth, and influence. Donald Trump has a moon in Sagittarius, folks. And you can really see that in his personality in terms of his emotional self, because moon is somebody's emotional self. His sun is in Gemini, talk, but his moon is in Sagittarius, and he's got this terrible wound in his moon in Sagittarius in his fourth house, has to do with his mother, fourth house, home and family, the hidden parent. Obviously, Fred Trump is his public parent, because the fourth and 10th house are, among many other things, symbolic of the hidden parent and the revealed parent. His mother was an immigrant, a Scottish immigrant who was a domestic, who came to New York and somehow hooked up with Fred Trump and married him. But he hides her, and yet he keeps marrying foreign women and has this very hardcore emotional simpatico thing going on with foreign women. At the same time, think of how much he hates foreigners, quote unquote, and how everything has to be American. So his ambivalence is totally rooted in his weird ambivalence that he has no consciousness of whatsoever and would not understand if he was explained to him, has everything to do with his moon in Sagittarius. Fun fact, this Monday, the 14th of December, 2020, if you're listening to me on my recording here, is the eclipse that is the parenthetical eclipse to Donald Trump's natal eclipse. He was born on June 14th, 1946, during which occurred a lunar eclipse. The sun was in Gemini, the moon was in Sagittarius. He was born during that eclipse, which is probably one reason why he's got such a supercharged sense of fate, you know, that he's been on the scene all these times. But this eclipse is a solar eclipse, and it's at 23 degrees Sagittarius, the same degree of the zodiac as the lunar eclipse he was born at. Okay, so are you getting the picture here? It's parentheses or bookmarks of a, not bookmarks, bookends. You know how bookend holds up all the books in the beginning and the end, or parentheses encloses a sentence at the beginning and the end. So he came into this world on one eclipse, and the eclipse on Monday on December 14th just happens to be the day pre-appointed by the amendments to the Constitution that the Electoral College meets and certifies the election. So my prediction all this time has been, my prediction was like, I don't see how he can possibly lose this election, because by astrology, it doesn't seem that it's possible for him to lose. It'd be almost impossible for him to lose, yet it says that he's going to be knocked out in December in some way. So it never made sense to me until earlier this year when I was noodling around online and realized that the Electoral College meets on the first Monday after the second Tuesday, and whatever the formula is happens to fall on the 14th of December, which is the day of the eclipse. So we'll see, right? We'll wait and see. Yeah, Mark says he won't concede, so he hasn't lost. Right. No, he will never concede, and he will be talking about it for the rest of his life. So he's got, we may talk about his chart as incomplete. I just wanted to bring up the thing about Sagittarius so that you understand that's Sagittarius can be very Barnum and Bailey circus. You know what I mean? Like a Sagittarius could be a ringmaster, but that's why they're also amazing hosts and hostesses and know how to throw a party like nobody's business. They're always going to go large. They're always, and wherever Sagittarius is in anybody's individual natal chart has to do with where they are going to be inspirational, where they're going to go big or go home in something, where they have a connection to things way outside of themselves and are able to connect to that bigger picture part of their life. So even if you aren't a Sagittarius or don't have Sagittarius in your natal chart, you do have Sagittarius going on somewhere in your personality. Any questions? Amy, did I say all the things about Sagittarius I should have said? Amy is a Virgo and has a lot to say about Sagittarius. Ron, do you have a question?
Yes, and this is maybe a little more, you touched on it, and I'm just not so familiar with, I'm sorry, I'm standing around,
Okay.
with the systems, but one thing I'm trying to understand is you're talking about Sagittarius with, is that according to the solar calendar, the Gregorian calendar, or the Jewish calendar? Because I know that, as you were saying at one point, you could be Sagittarian on this side or that side, and I think that has to do with.
It's overlaying. If you take the solar calendar and you overlay it with the Hebrew calendar, like our very favorite book and the most important book everyone should always have with them and never leave my side.
Great book. Great book.
The Hebrew Calendar by Arthur Spear. God bless his neshama. So
I have it. Yeah, of course.
Right, so if you look at these pages, I don't know if you can see it, but
yeah.
I need a second copy so I can be doing all these in color so I can see the difference. But if you do that over a 19-year period of time, over the 19-year Metonic cycle, you see that there's actually 36 possible combinations of what a person can be. So if somebody's born after before Rosh Chodesh Kislev, but it's already solar Sagittarius that year, they're a Cheshvan Sagittarius, right?
So my point is, or my question is, in the Jewish systems, you still use that solar signifier for the sun, for the 12 signs? You still
Yeah.
use the solar calendar, not the Hebrew calendar?
No, you use, no. I mean, no, we use the Hebrew calendar in our calculations because we have to calculate Shabbat and the holidays and everything else. But when we're talking about Kislev, we know that Kislev is related to the sign of Sagittarius. It's in the Sefer Yetzirah. It's like we sync the 12 signs to the 12 tribes in 12 months. Even though over a 19-year period of time, you'll have a few hours between the solar and the Hebrew calendar, or a few weeks. It's literally that wide of a swing. And I've been out about that swing for so many years.
Right. I guess what I'm trying to understand is in the Jewish astrological system, if someone is born in the month of Sagittarius, but
Yes.
in the sun sign of one of the ones on the side,
Yes.
if they're Jewish, do you even consider those ones according to the Gregorian calendar? You just say, oh, you're born in the moon of Sagittarius and therefore you're Sagittarius. It doesn't matter, it's December, whatever.
I guess it depends on what year and what society you're talking about, because the Gregorian calendar only had nothing to do with the Jewish people who lived in the Islamic lands,
right,
or in the Byzantine Empire. I mean, the Gregorian calendar wasn't even fixed till like what, 1530 something, or I don't remember.
Yeah,
but Jonathan?
Yeah, so a couple things. One is that the Jews did pay attention to the Seleucid calendar. So the Seleucid calendar would have been solar oriented in the time of the successors to Alexander, and the book of Jude. There were Jews pushing for solar recognition and integration in the 3rd and 2nd century BC, like the book of Jubilees author and some of the Dead Sea Scroll authors were. Ron, you've written about this. So Ron actually knows a lot more than I do. But the solar push was interesting at this time, and it may have actually catalyzed some of the Hanukkah developments in Kislev.
Right.
But that's what Bickerman wrote about, Sasha Stern, which is, well, the Maccabees may have established a holiday too, with acknowledgement of the Seleucid solar calendar and the Jubilees. So our people are both solar lunar,
Right.
and that's what you see in the Second Temple period. Is our ancestors were trying to integrate that both astrologically, historically, in terms of, and also the festival of Hanukkah fitting this time of year, both solar and lunar, is very interesting to me. And we can talk more about that.
I demand that you do talk more about that. Are you going to talk about it tonight on Hanukkah? Or are you going to talk about it during our upcoming?
We were so confused back then. We had the solar and the moon.
I'm glad I didn't want to focus so much on Hanukkah because I don't want to steal your thunder from tonight, but everybody knows Kislev is related to Hanukkah. So I want to tell you all that
say a little bit.
The 21st of December, the planet Jupiter and the planet Saturn, which we're going to talk about when we talk about Tevet next month. But before that even happens, the 21st of December, planet Jupiter and planet Saturn make what's called a great conjunction together in the sign of Aquarius. It has not been conjunct in the sign of Aquarius since the last time. Last time was the year 1405, because these great conjunctions happen in what's called elemental triplicities. So the elements are fire, air, earth, and water, and triplicities, just like it sounds, triples, right? So there's like triple time cycles of these planetary conjunctions, and we have not had an Aquarian version of it since the beginning of the Renaissance. So the last time this happened was the beginning of the Renaissance. This time it's the doorway between, I'm going to say it's between the antechamber and the foyer of the Aquarian Age, because we've been talking about that we're in the age of Aquarius for, since the 1960s. But since the fifth dimension and the song Hair from Hair, but there's been a lot of struggle, let's say, to get to this idealized Aquarian age. So the planets are going to conjunct. We're having a big big Jupiter, another keyword for Jupiter, a big conference online. And you can find out more about it at this website that I will put into the chat. Hold on a second.
Can you thank you for putting that together, Lorelai. And can we have mixed drinks on the 21st?
We
We
are
mix
going to have
drinks?
many. Oops, that's
So
the calendar.
what's
You
a
guys,
what's a
I'm
drink
so
from
wrong.
Jupiter
Don't
and
pay
Saturn?
attention to me. Hold on. I can't do 10 things at once. Hold on. Or Aquarian Age. So it's aquarianminyan.org/Aquarian Age. We're going to talk about Jewish astrology. We're going to talk about the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction and Messianic Jewish thought. This is really a big deal. These conjunctions of Jupiter and Saturn, the Jews picked up on them via the Persians, 3rd century, and started thinking about this idea of historical astrology, meaning they literally started thinking about history as a whole and how the planets made this conjunction being at the same sign of the same degree of the same sign regularly and predictably throughout history in these different cycles, that Jupiter and Saturn were thought to bring on a change in politics, a change in regime, the rise of a new leader, and many thought it was a messianic sign. Many of our sages thought it was a messianic sign. So they would get ready to, like, you know, maybe think about that happening. And people cannot resist looking at astrology to tell the future. And the things that we want to know the most about the future is usually, when does the Messiah come? I don't recommend doing it. I'm never going to recommend looking at it like that. And there's something that really annoys me in the Jewish world right now. People who know nothing about astrology writing in certain websites and other places about, oh, this eclipse and blood moon and that eclipse happening on Passover and Shavuot. Of course, there's going to be eclipses regularly on any full moon, because that's when eclipses happen. Eclipses don't happen during the quarter moon. It doesn't happen during the last quarter or full quarter moons. They only happen during a new moon or a full moon. So our holidays are on full moons. Of course, they're going to have eclipses on full moons. It's been happening for hundreds of years on a regular basis. So there's no reason to think that anything other than it's another one of those things happening, which is not to say we shouldn't yearn for the Messiah. We definitely should. And I think that we have something to talk about at this conference having to do with the age of Aquarius and the idea, the Aquarian age, meaning this idealistic age of universal brotherhood and equality for all people. What does that really mean? How might that manifest? What does resistance against that look like? We can see a lot of resistance against that over the last few years, but also, what is the possible dark side? What might that look like? Is that enforcing social norms because we believe that they're the right ones, enforcing them militarily even? There's a lot of questions around that. So we're going to talk about that and many other fun things on the 21st to honor the winter solstice and the conjunction. So I invite you to go to aquarianminyan.org/Aquarian Age and register for this low bargain price of $26 that will let you have access to all the recordings. You don't even have to start at 9:30 in the morning with me or 10 o'clock with Jill Hammer and Marla Siegel and Rabbi Tamima Audrey Ikowitz, who's going to be with us, and Pierre Gabriel Mancuso, that we're going to talk about the Sefer Yetzirah at 10 o'clock. At 12 o'clock, Meir Epstein is going to talk about Ibn Ezra and astrology and Jupiter and Saturn in Jewish thought. And at 2 o'clock, Jonathan Seidel and I, and maybe some uninvited guests, are going to have a freewheeling conversation about the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction and Messianic history and the age of Aquarius. Is it going to be good for the Jews, or is there a dark side that we have to find out about? So please visit us our website at aquarianminyan.org and find out how to register for that and find out about our Hanukkah program, which is happening starting tonight. Jonathan, do you want to talk at all about what we're doing tonight with you?
Tonight, I'm doing a little unconventional history of the origins of Hanukkah and the Hasmoneans, the masculinity of the Hasmoneans and Queen Salome. And we will study some rabbinic texts on Hanukkah. I have a little different view of history. Talk about Jewish civil war. Also some new songs. We've rewritten Ma'oz Tzur and Al Hanisim to be more congruent with peacemaking and not violence and xenophobia. So we are changing the words to some classic songs that we all grew up with, so they're not so horribly militaristic and violent. So we're going to do those. Yeah, we're going to do that because as much as I love Judah Maccabee, he's my hero, we can be a little different than Judah, you know.
Okay.
So
that sounds good. I like
tonight,
the reform.
reforming Hanukkah. Yeah, see you tonight if you guys can make it. Love to see you. Love to see you. Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
And well, thank you, Lorelai. Fantastic class as usual.
Thank
Your
you.
brilliance, your wonder, the reincarnation of somebody awesome. I'm not sure who, but you're here, and we're glad you're here. May your kids be blessed and your grandsons, and you be healthy,
Amen.
happy,
Amen.
and well, and your doggy may this beautiful doggy always give you comfort and love too.
Amen. Thank
Dear
you.
Lorelai, we love you, Lorelai.
And
Thanks.
happy birthday tomorrow.
Yay!
Hey, I
Yom
wanna
Holedet
bless her.
Sameach. Yom Holedet Sameach. Yom Holedet.
Have some more latkes.
Yeah, I'm more. How can I
That's just
possibly
what I
eat more
need.
than I've already been eating? That's a whole other problem.
No,
Jupiter.
that's
Jupiter is
large.
the making planet, and I can prove it. Okay, Jupiter, it's a problem. Jupiter and Venus together, bigger problem. It's all about the pleasure. So let me just tell you one other thing. I want to bless you, because I have the power to bless in Yom Haledet season, between my Hebrew birthday of the 18th of Kislev and my solar birthday, the 11th of December. I want to bless everybody in the sound of my voice with health and happiness and shefa and abundance and Jupiter-sized dreams that all come true and only for the revealed good. And let us all say amen. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. Thanks for being